If, however, I can, by a lucky chance in these days of evil, rub out one wrinkle from the brow of care and make my reader more in good humor with his fellow beings and himself, surely, surely I shall not then have written entirely in vain. Washington Irving. Washington Irving, who created American legend, was the youngest of William and Sarah Irving's 11 children. As a small child, Irving had occasion to meet his namesake. George Washington blessed the lad and told him that in his hands rested the future of the nation. Because of his family's modest circumstances, the future of Washington Irving led him to the law office of Henry Masterson, rather than to further education. His natural geniality brought him into the social life of New York and brought him to read books of travel, rather than put full emphasis upon the study of the law. In 1802, Peter Irving became the anonymous editor of a newspaper known as The Corrector, to which his younger brother Washington became a regular contributor.
William, what do you think is causing the most comment of any portion of The Corrector?
I have no idea, Peter. I would imagine your editorials.
Hardly. It's the letters of Jonathan Oldstyle, gentleman.
You mean those pieces Washington gives you?
Absolutely. Every tea table in New York buzzes with word of Jonathan Oldstyle and his lively satire on New York theater and society. Our baby brother has become a new tattler.
Congratulations, Peter. The Irvings have finally developed a talent in their midst. I thought it might be you. You, I'm sure, thought it might be me.
But at least now we know that we have one. We'll have to foster Washington's talent, William. Give him every help we possibly can.
Quite agreed, Peter. He shall have every opportunity to prove himself.
At the age of 21, Washington Irving became very ill. He contracted consumption.
Ebenezer, it's evident that Washington can work no longer.
That's only for the time being, of course.
Of course. Ebenezer, listen. William is out now trying to arrange for Washington's trip to Europe.
If you're discussing the trip to Europe, you two, you know we can't afford it. The physician says it'll take more than 2 years to recover my strength. I shan't allow you to jeopardize your security.
Son, your brothers believe in you and have great pride in you. Would you be so ungrateful as to deny them the pleasure of investing in that belief and pride?
You set sail in 2 weeks, baby brother. I've arranged all the details for your safe passage. New York never was good enough for you, so now you're on your way. But you had to get sick to do it.
William, you're a good son.
Thank you, Mother.
How happy Washington will be to get away from those law books.
No happier than when you gave up medicine, Peter. Listen, all of you. Though gratitude was never one of my virtues, you've all spoiled me terribly. If I were to say I am ungrateful now, even in jest, I would be denying one of the finest families a man could ever have.
My good boys.
Of course, you never will know whether I contracted this malady on purpose.
And in the spring, Irving set sail for Europe. He visited France, Italy, Holland, England, and then 2 years later came home. New York was small, but it contained a few congenial spirits who were drawn together from time to time at Governor Kemble's home in Newark. They were called the Nine Worthies of Cockloft Hall.
James Paulding, you look pensive this evening.
William, I've been mulling over that idea you discussed with us. That is, for us to do a magazine satirizing our New York society. I'd like to try it.
I agree, Paulding. Why don't we?
But, Kemble, what should we aim at?
The wittiest member of our group, you should tell us, Washington.
Well, I, of course, shouldn't mind running riot with every tradition of our time. Make this sober new world learn to laugh at itself. Perhaps we might use the form which Oliver Goldsmith and Joseph Addison applied so well.
In other words, we could point up the foibles of our society, make the people laugh at themselves.
That's right.
Exactly.
And so throughout the year 1807, there appeared 20 issues of that humorous publication, Salmagundi. Irving's work on this magazine made him known both as a writer and as a wit. He had passed the bar, but his social tendencies took precedence over his work as a lawyer. He led a tranquil, interesting life, but without much meaning until he fell in love with Matilda Hoffman.
Matilda, will you marry me? I will take life seriously. I'll do anything you ask. I'll even stop writing.
Oh, now, I shouldn't like that at all. Mein Herr Irving.
You mean everything to me, Matilda. Will you marry me?
If you promise me one thing,
Anything.
that you'll never be cruel with your words. You must never try to hurt people, but always be as kind and charming to them as you are to me.
I promise.
Then I'm afraid I should like to marry you very much.
Matilda.
But in the spring of 1809, Matilda Hoffman became ill very suddenly.
And since I've taken over Peter's project on the history of New York, he thinks it'll be a great success. It's a satire on that pompous new guidebook by Samuel Mitchell. Peter says all New York will be laughing.
Washington, you promised never to be cruel with your words. If you are to be clever, let it be a gentle cleverness, without hurt, without malice.
Yes, Matilda. If I'm to be clever, I will try to make it a very easy, charming sort of thing. Like the Hudson River. Like you, Matilda. And someday, you and I will live very quietly, very peacefully. And I shall write about America cheerfully. Because you will be by my side. You will always be by my side.
Matilda's death was a crushing blow to the rising hopes of Irving, but the young writer could not deny himself the exercise of his genuine creative power. And under the pseudonym of Diedrich Knickerbocker, published his satirical History of New York.
Washington, you seem to have created a legend in old Diedrich Knickerbocker.
There's not a soul in all New York who hasn't read your history and chuckled over it. And everyone I know thinks Knickerbocker's a real person.
But you should hear the protests of some of our early Dutch families' descendants, ranting over the fun made at them.
No sense of humor. There's no malice in old Diedrich Knickerbocker. Merely broad satire in the handling of our young traditions. I personally think I've never read anything more charming.
It's my opinion that baby brother is now a full-fledged writer, Kemble.
Your compliments are most welcome, but I must stop you there, Peter. I still hesitate to adopt literature as a profession. For all we know, I may continue to be nothing but a leech on your pocketbook.
Washington, I won't hear of such nonsense.
Please, Peter. If it's all the same to you, I thought I might become a partner in your business house. I know I'm useless now, but you need help in your London office. And if you felt I might learn...
Ebenezer and I would be more than happy to have you with us. But
then it's settled. Washington Irving shall begin to earn his keep.
In 1815, he set sail for Europe in the interests of his brother's firm. In England, Washington Irving's spirits were dampened when the Peter and Ebenezer Irving Company failed. He knew that now, to earn, he had to write. And in the fall of 1817, he made a visit to Abbotsford, where he met Walter Scott.
It's quite beautiful and peaceful here around the Tweed River, Mr. Irving.
Indeed, Mr. Scott, it almost compares favorably with our own Hudson.
Oh, yes. The American through and through. As I was saying, young man, it appears you haven't even begun to tap the most important source of literary material there is. It seems to me there's no likelier source for subject matter than the legends of a country. For instance, take the backgrounds of German literature. Doesn't America have any such legends?
None of long standing, Mr. Scott.
Well, then, make some up as you go along. Study the German language and literature, and you'll see what I'm driving at. Right from the legendary strain, and you'll never go wrong.
Walter Scott fixed legend in the mind of Washington Irving, and he took up the study of German and began work on the first draft of Rip Van Winkle.
In this series of sketches, I'm writing under the name of Geoffrey Crayon. In a number of the sketches, I develop humorous legends.
For instance?
Well, in one of the stories, called The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, my hero is a schoolmaster by the name of Ichabod Crane. Here, read this.
He was tall but exceedingly lank, with narrow shoulders, long arms and legs, hands that dangled a mile out of his sleeves, and feet that might have served for shovels. And his whole frame most loosely hung together. One might have mistaken him for some scarecrow eloped from a cornfield.
In the following 2 years, Irving sent installments of Geoffrey Crayon's sketches to be published in New York. They attained immediate popularity, not only in America, but in London as well.
England's been most courteous to me, Sir Walter.
As it should be. It is you who have dispelled the English impression of the American writer. That of a kind of demi-savage with a feather in his hand instead of on his head. Now you have answered Sidney Smith's question, who reads an American book? Tell me, with your success, are you now financially secure?
I don't believe I shall ever want for anything ever again. And I can never thank you enough for leading me to legend, Sir Walter.
You must continue to use your very fine talents well, Irving. Your phenomenal success places you in the public eye.
Irving received a letter from the American minister to Spain, attaching him to the legation in Madrid. There he lived with Obadiah Rich, the famous Spanish-American bibliographer, and worked on his biography of Columbus.
Well, I'm through for today.
Now that you are almost finished with your work on Columbus, Irving, I believe you have proved to yourself that you can be more than a humorist.
Well, this opportunity has given me added faith again. The rich, unpenetrated folklore of Spain is like wine to me.
Though Spanish history is fascinating, the legends of the Alhambra and Granada are even more absorbing. It would seem to me that you are the man to set them down for all to read.
Irving's The Tales of the Alhambra and the Conquest of Granada are steeped in the atmosphere of later Moorish history and are filled with the pathos of a great race historically struggling against fate. In 1832, after an absence of 17 years, Irving returned to New York. He found himself the object of the affection and admiration of the entire country.
And I should like to reaffirm, after this long absence from my native land and people, I should like to reaffirm my unchanging love for America.
With the exception of 4 happy years in his beloved Spain as American minister, Irving spent the rest of his life in the surroundings he described in The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. He brought his brothers and their families to live with him at Sunnyside-on-the-Hudson, where he wrote The Life of Oliver Goldsmith, Muhammad and his successors, and finally his 5-volume Life of George Washington, which he completed at the age of 76.
Come in. Well, speak up. What is it?
Dinner will soon be ready, Uncle.
All right, my girl. Enough, enough. Can't you see I'm writing?
Yes, Uncle.
No, wait. Come here to me. Your uncle is a nervous, irritable old man who should have stopped writing some time ago. I've had my say many times over.
Oh, Uncle.
No. I can remember when your Uncle Peter and Paulding and I discontinued Salmagundi because we didn't have any more to say.
After that siege with General Washington, it is time you rested.
You know you're very pretty.
Thank you, Uncle.
Almost as pretty as one young girl I once knew. Now, go and see to dinner.
Rest a while, Uncle.
I believe I shall. How you wearied me, General. All 5 volumes of you.
girl arrive, not an ounce of energy too soon. Now perhaps I can dream a while without the pen and ink to haunt me. Hello there, Rip Van Winkle. Still sleeping in the sun of the Catskill legend? You and I will someday have a good long rest together. There you are, Diedrich Knickerbocker. What of Ichabod Crane? Our most worthy pedagogue of Sleepy Hollow. We had great fun together, gentlemen. Oh, yes, Rip. Even to this day, they never hear a thunderstorm about the Catskills. But they say it's Hendrik Hudson and his crew at their game of 9 pins.
Uncle Washington, dinner's on the table. Uncle, do you hear me? Dinner's ready.
The work of Washington Irving was the outcome of his own character and the land in which he was born, dealing for the most part with old world themes, but in the new world temper and spirit. He connected our own literature with the literature of Europe. His gifts were a sensitive spirit, a delightful humor, a vein of true sentiment, and an instinct for style. No, Hendrik Hudson, no one will ever ask again, who reads an American book?